Good afternoon on what is a cool, grey and cloudy day. It is Thursday, the 23rd of May, and I'm in the reading Nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And a box to finish unboxing. And what I've got here is a copy of Sky Warriors by Saul, which is British Airborne Forces in the Second World War. From best-selling historian Saul, a riveting new history of British Airborne Forces across the Second World War. The legendary Red Devils were amongst the finest combat troops of the Second World War. Created at Churchill's instigation in June 1940, they began as a single parachute regiment of 500 men and grew into three 10,000-strong airborne divisions, the 1st, 6th and 44th Indian, each composed of parachutists and glider-borne troops. Wearing the distinctive maroon berets, steel helmets and Denison smocks, they served in distinction in every major theatre of the conflict, including North Africa, Sicily, mainland Europe and the Far East. They played a starring role in some of the most iconic airborne operations in history. The Bruneval raid of February 1942, the capture of the Primsokol, Pegasus and Arnhem bridges in July 1943, June 1944, and September 1944, respectively, and Operation Varsity, the biggest parachute drop in history, near Wiesel in Germany in March 1945. Sky Warriors is an accomplished act of storytelling, authoritative, far-reaching and deeply moving, building a narrative from the ground up. Saul draws on multiple archives, published memoirs and unpublished diaries and letters, and interviews with participants. The end result is a dramatic account of airborne forces, recruitment, training and wartime exploits. This is the first time the complete wartime story of the British Airborne Forces has been told. So yeah, I mean, obviously, me personally, I've had a bit of interest in sort of like in the American Airborne Forces, so Band of Brothers, of course, going back a bit, read the books about them, turn that into sort of like a bit of gaming material for the role-playing game Godlike, if you're, but anyway, so we've got a list of all the author's books, and contents page. So yeah, I'm of course interested to actually read about the exploits of the British during this period. Their old airborne troops. I mean, famously, short of special forces, the paras, the paratroop regiments are regarded as essentially as elite troops. So their formation will be interesting and early operations will be interesting to read about, especially forged in war. Got a list of all the maps. And the first of those maps go. So you've got the different maps for different regions, drop zones, actions, theatres of operation, so on. And then we get the introduction, and we're into part one, beginnings, covering the period 40-42 with Operation Colossus. Sort of like the first time they were dropped into the field, I suppose. With a bit of a basically cutting back. So basically, the first scenario does that classic thing of storytelling. Here's their first operation. Here's how it went, and then it cuts back to, their beginnings. So just flipping forward, section 2, growing pains. Operations in North Africa. And we come to the first section of photographs. Essentially kitted up, all ready to drop. And this is essentially dropping out of, that's a Whitley bomber. There we go. Ungainly looking things, but I mean, essentially that you know, the bombers, instead of, what would happen is sort of like the bombers would be sort of like moved from sort of active bombing missions to actually, you know, transporting parachutists and dropping them. And this is essentially, you know, before we get bringing in the sort of like the C-47, the Dakota C-47, later in the war. And then stepping forward, we have the planes. This is fantastic. Basically, Halifax glider tugs, along with Horsa and Hamilcar gliders, waiting RAF Tarrant Rushton to take off for Normandy. So there we go. That's that photograph here, and that's actually not very far away. That's about, I would say, 2 or 3 miles away from where I grew up. It's an airfield there. It's basically disused now, but long abandoned as an airfield, just barren ground. But that's where they sort of like operated from for the gliders, because it's about 20 miles from the coast. So, you know, literally flying from Dorset in Tarrant Rushton in Dorset to to the French coast is an incredibly quick journey. You know, it's you're talking sort of like, you know, half an hour, something to 45 minutes, I suppose, something like that. So here we've got the basic photographs of them in operation, and then in Arnhem, and the bridges, and got crashed, they basically landed, glided there as well. So yeah, and we're moving basically, we've got coverage of the Arnhem operations there. Really sort of like it's sort of like the big hurrah, I suppose. When I say hurrah, it was sort of like, you know, big operation at the end of World War II. Basically, the roll of the dice by Montgomery to try and just break the Germans, capture entry into Germany, and so on. And then we have Operation Varsity, the jump into Germany, which sort of like is more of an aftermath sort of thing. So it gets quite less coverage. Postscript at the end. Acknowledgements. Endnotes, not particularly fulsome, but you know, worth checking. I mean, some endnotes or footnotes actually expand greatly on the content earlier on, which basically the references for. These don't, so they're not quite as interesting. This is secondary sources, and so on, and then the index. Let's have a look. Yeah. So that is it, and then author's autobiography at the back there. So that is Sky Warriors, British Airborne Forces in the Second World War. Look forward to giving that a read. At lending that to a friend to read as well, because he'll be interested. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you did, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings of the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box from which I will typically unbox a book or game or role-playing supplement, or in this case, a book about World War II history, which I will basically unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing and Nook. We'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.